the oral tradition soon phased itself out. Minerva's owl is the opening essay, and that, means it's Hegel's phrase that the owl of Minerva takes its flight at twilight.
Oh, yeah.
When things are just about over, then wisdom is born. And so, this is right off, it's a bias of communication.
It's like the fish in the water. We don't know who discovers water, but we know it wasn't a fish. A pervasive medium, a pervasive environment is always beyond perception.
The same capacity of the visual man to relate to an acoustic world. The privileges I made for myself.
For making all that pollution for.
Mutually irritate one another until they suddenly get a flash. Insights.
You can take it as a gestalt.
I always says that in certain circles, glorious reputation.
Out of the stone writing, and you get an army or military structure out of paper, because they can carry the orders anywhere.
That the darkness inside the pyramid was to space what silence was to sound, and was not an approaching tone. However, Carl Williams at that moment said, well, no, that would lead into that acoustic space. I'd never heard the phrase or word in my life in acoustic space, and yet awakening life. And I have never ceased to meditate on that word problem of acoustic space. Acoustic space is a feminine space, no doubt, tactile touch, the interface, the word of the interface, no connections. So that was a very great moment, the discovery of acoustic space, as opposed to other forms of space.
A courier system.
Yeah.
So the Roman thing came out of, the Babylonian priesthoods came out of stone writing, and the Roman thing came out of paper.
Carl Williams at that moment said, well, that would be into that acoustic space. I'd never heard the phrase or word in my life, acoustic space, and yet awakening life.
This is the campus of the University of California in Los Angeles.
This was the Broadway campus of the University of Manitoba in Winnipeg.
Today, no one of the students is aware that this is ground zero of one of the biggest revolutions we as humans are experiencing.
Today, no one of the citizens is aware that this is the origin of the Winnipeg School of Communication.
University of Manitoba?
Yeah.
Okay. And we're in front of?
Of the Marshall McLuhan Hall.
I have never ceased to meditate.
Now that gimmick of putting down the highbrow, debunking the pretentious, comes right along through European tradition, out of the Orient, out of Hellenic times, and finally gets to forms we are familiar with: Don Quixote, Rabelais, Sterne's Tristram Shandy. These are direct descendants of the old carnivalistic debunking of the institutions of society.
Kelvin is a high school in Winnipeg, Manitoba, in Canada, North America, Western Hemisphere.
take on that word problem. And Jack Jarrett was describing Gideon's new book, which was a book that came out on the Gideon's documentary. She had been working with him on it, studying. She mentioned in passing that he had said that the Egyptians had not enclosed space, nor had the Greeks. And enclosed space was something first done by the Romans.
Camps at University of Toronto in the 1950s, and in particular, the part you played in the formation of the culture and technology.
Oh yes, well, I'd be glad to talk about that. This began in an interesting way because the Ford Foundation announced in the early 50s that it was going to give scholarships or give money in any case to groups who would submit plans for interdisciplinary seminars, studies, research, whatever. The idea of this being, excuse me, the idea of this being that they felt that departments were becoming far too isolated one from another and far too inbred, and with no relationship between departments, for example, where there ought to be relationships, such things as, say, English and philosophy or philosophy and law, and so on and so forth. Anyway, this was the basis of this announcement, and it aroused a great deal of interest on our campus and a good many others, and a fair number of these awards were made. In the event, I think we were the only ones to win an award in Canada, and 4 of us got together and put in a submission for an interdisciplinary study of something we called culture and communications. And the 4 people involved were Marshall McLuhan in English, Tom Easterbrook in economics, Ted Carpenter in anthropology, and myself in psychology. We were later joined by Jacqueline Turret, who was in town planning, but she was away that year doing a study in India, and so she didn't join us until the second of the 2 years which was the length of the grant that we received. Now, the thing was set up in this fashion, that we got the graduate school of the university to agree that any graduate student from any one of our disciplines who took our seminar would get credit for a graduate course. And then we had enough money to offer a modest scholarship to each of 4 students. For example, I had 4 in psychology, Tom had 4 economists, and so on around the line. So we had 16 graduate students, and they took our seminar, and the 4 of us were present at virtually every meeting of the seminar. And that was really, I think its significance in retrospect was that this was the launching pad for Marshall McLuhan. This is what got Marshall into orbit. He was, by common consent, named the chairman of the group, and it turned out to be, as a matter of fact, an exceedingly good chairman, although highly unorthodox in his method of approaching the business. Whereas the Ford Foundation had believed that there were barriers between or among departments, if they believed it, we proved it in spades. We really found ourselves widely at variance, and sometimes wildly at variance one with another, as we approached the problem of trying to find common points of discussion. This was the reason for the very broad title of our joint submission, Culture and Communications. And in the early 50s, as it turned out, communication was one of the buzzwords among research organizations, and I dare say it was one of the reasons why we won the grant. It quickly turned out, however, that we weren't communicating very well with each other. And we had a lot of trouble, and there were a lot of bad-tempered and passionate exchanges as various people found some of their pet ideas and pet values simply either ignored or worse, ridiculed by one's colleagues in the seminar. And this same problem, of course, affected the graduate students as well. But I think the great thing was that we stuck with it. And the seminar, with all its problems, and of course we were laughed at a good deal for not being able to communicate and so on, and we were supposed to be the communicators. The point was the other people weren't communicating either, but they didn't know it, and we did.
I have never seen brought in the life of a Greek gent. Oh yes, Miss Jarrett was one person who worked with him for a great while. She was one of the founding members, not that long. Jacqueline Jarrett. She was in the Department of Architecture.
A sculptural approach to the page.
We're going. Thought of Marshall McLuhan as the person who most defined culture that we were moving into. And though it seems that many people are talking about it, that he alone had some insights to it long ago before it was ever very real.
Therapy of the word concerns the work of the witch doctors and the shamans who did the spell, cast the spells and so on, help people to get well. And the spells were cast in various art forms, lyric, epic, dramatic. Odes and so on were all part of the shaman's equipment. The genre of what we call the genre of literature began in the spells cast by witch doctors, the shamans.
I would like his type of style.
With three guys from Winnipeg.
And then I think Marshall was getting together a little group, Carl Williams and Tom Easterbrook. This was the group. We got a grant from the Ford Foundation, comments at bottom from American sources. Marshall was getting together a little group, Carl Williams and Ted Carpenter, of course, were the main ones.
To Winnipeg. They're all buddies. That's right, but not just.
Conference at the University of Toronto called the Exploration School, then, now, and next.
Man broken up into little bits.
Whatever. If you've ever heard of it. Minerva's owl is wisdom only comes out in the dark when everything is done.
So at least there's one thing of Hegel that you'll accept. I think that's who I am. I think that's who I am.
Yeah, well, it isn't. You know that cogito really means the experience of thinking.
Yeah.
It's not what I think.
No, I know. I think.
But it's the feeling that you are thinking that makes you feel I am. And the cogito.
Aha! Aha! What do you know?